Hi and welcome. We're in a different location than usual. I am in snowy, cold Montana, checking things out over here. Got some family that live in this area, and also there's a lot of snow, so I went to go play in the snow. But we're here for Ask Me Anything. This is our segment where we take questions from our new, kind of topics from our new members of our Raising Our Resilience parent group. So if you have friends, by the way, who you think could benefit from this sort of thing, invite them to join the group, and then they can pop in their answer to what is the hardest thing about parenting right now. And we pull from those questions to then run these Ask Me Anything events. So anyway, so we're going to dive right in. Great to have you here. Let me know in the chat, say hello if you're on Facebook and or here on Zoom, so I can see who's here today. So we're going to start off with Zach Worthington's question. And I love this one because it sort of encapsulates a lot of our struggles, things that we as parents and our caregivers can run into. For example, this question I love says, what is the best way to deal with the behavior of tired children who do not want to sleep? Yeah, great question. So what we can do is chat about this from a couple of different perspectives. The first one is from a routines perspective. So first of all, when you get into sleep training spaces and routine spaces, you're trying to figure out how are we going to get this kid into bed and falling asleep before they get to this place of being overtired. All of us have been there with a cranky child who doesn't want to go to bed because they're overtired, just not ready to hit the hay. And I'm just looking here, Zach, it looks like you have 3 and 4-year-olds. Okay, good to know. All right, so Zach, first thing I'd want to know is how are you running your afternoon, evening routines with your little ones? Are they taking naps or not? And what does it look like for them when they are taking naps successfully or going to bed successfully? And have you had a chance to come up with a mini routine of that they actively participate in to downregulate and soothe themselves and settle in and allow you to do the things you need to do to help them fall asleep, whether that's singing to them, rubbing their back, rubbing their temple. I had one of my godson, who was also my student in preschool. He really needed his little lower back and kind of hiney tapped like this. I'm curious what you've figured out so far that really does get them to sort of shift over to the edge of fighting it to sort of relaxing into that sleeping time. I worked a nap room for 5 years, and then I've consulted with others to help other teachers and caregivers, and of course parents now, hundreds of parents, get through this exact dilemma. Another thing you can think about is really being mindful of what is happening the hour before sleep. A lot of us will do sort of a song and dance around, one more thing. I want one more sip of water. I still want some milk. One more time to the bathroom. And I think what can happen is then your kid is kind of in charge of the routine and how late things are pushing. So really sticking to your bedtime and figuring out a way to have them really understand that it is last chance to use the potty, last chance to have a sip of water, last chance to have a drink of milk, if they're still breastfeeding, for example, last chance to, last book, and just be really clear about the last time. And that's where you're going to want to hold the line. I noticed that you also said setting limits effectively, Zach, is something you're really interested in. You're going to want to think about what your limit setting is looking like throughout the whole day, so that when you get to the point of it lights out, it's time for you to do that thing where you actively lay down and show me like a resting body, maybe face. The classic is their tummy down, arms back, head to the side, closing their eyes, actively participating, falling asleep. You don't want that to be your limit setting moment of the day. You want it to be that throughout the day, you've set limits and you've held them, and they believe you when you say last time, or they believe you when you say, I'm not going to rub your back until you lay still. Kids can sniff it out if you're not quite solid there. So that's something that I help folks with all the time, is how do we get to this place of clarity about what our limits are so that we can hold them lovingly and firmly in a way that our kids understand that we do mean business. it can just take one time of you giving in to set you back weeks. So it's not that you're inflexible if your child's melting down and it's a hot mess, you have to recalibrate. Yes, please do. But it is important that, especially with routine setting, that you get into a rhythm. You can also give kids choices along the way, that they do have some influence in certain parts, but I would keep consistent what they can influence. So you don't let them influence how many books we get to read tonight, one night, and then they don't get to choose how many books you get to read the next night. That would be too variable. But you could say, we're reading 3 books. Which 3 books do you want to read of these 5 choices? Or which 2 books do you want to read of these 4 choices? Limiting choices, having them pick. You could say, would you like me to sing you a song, or would you like me to rub your, to play a song? 2 choices, right? But it's still the routine is still happening. The other thing you can do is you can create a little chart to get things moving. And that's what we do in our Robust Routines course, our mini course, our 6-week course that we just concluded. It was so much fun. In our immersion, where we spend a month of January and the month of July really getting our routines honed, so that they can carry us through our daily lives. So Zach, a lot that we can play with there. Let me know what you got out of it. Tell me in the chat, in the comments here, tag me, let me know if you have any follow-up questions. I'm here for that. Okay. Karen is here. Okay, let's just do Karen's question. Way to make it live, Karen. So she says, daycare acting out, mimicking other kids, throwing fits when it doesn't get his way, telling us no. Okay, Karen, help me out and tell me the age of your child. I can see that it's a boy. Yeah, you have a son. Okay. So oftentimes what's happening there is that kids are making bids for connection, and they tried something and it got a reaction, and now they're in a little bit of a rut. Okay, a 4-year-old. Okay, good. Yeah, and a little bit of a groove, we'll say, of saying like, oh, I get attention when I do this. I get this person to engage with me and do something back. And ooh, there's fireworks. This is interesting. So kids are definitely trying to figure out their senses. They're trying to figure out like, what is this and what is it for? Including people. What is this person and what is this person for? And oftentimes it turns out to my entertainment, or letting that child know that, you don't like something, but not having the words to say it. So they yell or kick or bite. Or I used to have kids that would get really mad at each other, preschoolers, 4-year-olds, and we call them our little dragons. These 3 girls would get into this little space where they're all staring at each other like this, and they just grip each other and squeeze as hard as they can. This is natural. Children are doing this all the time. And what I always tell my clients is all behavior is communication. So if he's acting out, he's communicating something. It's, I want attention, or give me more power, or I'm tired and cranky, I need a nap, or this routine is different and it's freaking me out. I don't want him to go. It's my turn, right? I didn't get to go last time. Like all of these words. So one thing you can do is you can start to, if you're probably already doing this, Karen, let me know. But I say become a great interpreter of behavior. And I just write the sentence down, the sentence stem. When you blank, are you trying to show me blank? So like when you push mommy away, are you trying to tell me that it's time for mommy to go, or you'd like mommy to leave? When you kick your shoe, are you trying to show me that you need some help tying your laces? Like always, like, what is this behavior? What do I guess this it's trying to communicate, and trying to put some words in there? Because what we want to do is we want to help your children swap out these behaviors for words as much as possible. But it's a really different thing to say, is this behavior, are you trying to show me this? And you put the words out there, then use your words. Use your words can be one of the most unfair things we can say, especially to a kid who's upset. So that's when I would say lid is half off. In other words, like they're, pretty dysregulated, but still able to sort of verbalize with you, or at least go, and like hear your words. If they're more upset than that, I have a whole training on this. We actually spent 2 months on this, and a 3-day retreat on emotional mastery in my immersion program for a reason, because meltdowns, tantrums, and power struggles, anytime that emotions are running high, we call it lid flipped moments, where the lid's all the way off. You're dealing with a different nervous system and brain. So you're going to want to adjust how you speak to them, and how you, what expectations you have of their response, and how you just generally handle the situation. So if he's throwing fits when he doesn't get his way and telling you no, good. He's playing with power. He's trying to figure it out. He's communicating something. However, how far you can get with him really depends on how upset he is. So the one thing I tell everybody to do is get a sense of how far off is their lid? Like, become a good lid detector. Like, how far off is that lid? Is he like actually throwing a fit or is he stopping and looking to see how you're reacting? Which I would call like a upstairs brain tantrum, where his like cognitive facilities, Dr. Daniel Siegel would call his cognitive facilities are still there, and you can engage with him more intellectually. Or is it more of what we call a downstairs brain tantrum, where it's like limbic system, brainstem, and it's just like full on beast mode? Reading that is going to be really important. Okay, so then I would say when his lid is only half off, stopping and looking. Okay, he's a tester. Yes, he's testing you. Okay, good. So how comfortable are you, Karen, with setting a limit and offering a preview of what will happen if he chooses path A or path B? Because to me, that's the master skill with a tester. You've got to know what your game plan is for if he continues to do that behavior or if he chooses a more preferable choice, right? So, and offering those choices. So it might sound something like this. Wow, seems like you really want to say, okay, you do that. Good. All right. Follow through, and offer choices all along the way. So here's how it could sound. And this is what I practice with my clients all the time, because it's one of those skills that until you have a toddler, we don't really need. So especially like as a teacher, I remember being in year 1, 6 months in, and being like, okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this choice thing, because I'd heard my colleagues do it so much. So try listen to see if this is how you're doing it. There's some subtlety here, so you want to listen. Okay, anybody who's limit setting. Are you trying to show me, like I was saying with Zach, are you trying to show me that you would like some attention right now? You've got my full attention, and in order to continue in this activity, we're going to need to stop repeating what the kids are saying. So you can use your new words, or we can take a break from the room. That's like a daycare provider could say. We'll give the kids a little space until you're ready to use your own words. And now that's very specific to the copying thing, right? And when you're ready to sit at circle with a quiet voice and your hands in your lap, then we can come back. Are you ready? Oh, okay. Well, show me that you're ready. Okay. Can you put your hands down? Can you make your voice really quiet? Okay. I see that you're ready. When we go in there, are you going to keep using a quiet voice and put your hands down on your lap? Okay. Well, let's see. Show me. And you can even say, here's the preview of the choice. When we go in there, if you sit down and you start talking again, we'll just quickly get up and leave the room again. All right, let's see how it goes. We can either sit in the circle quietly and stay, or I'm saying a lot of words because he's smart and he's calm, right? Or we'll need to go immediately. Let's go see what happens. Can you go sit down? He might purposely go, da, 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 da. Okay, let's go. And it's like no fuss after that. It's just follow through. Okay, we're leaving. But I was ready. Okay, you're gonna need to show me. Can you sit down and show me you're ready? All right, well, show me right here. Quiet voice, hands to yourself. Okay, you do look ready. And you sit down. And then you can give it 3 chances in preschool circle time. Oh, we gotta leave again. Okay, last chance. We're gonna go back. We'll try one more time. If you're not able to sit quietly, hands to yourself, then we'll need to leave the circle and we won't get to play the game. Okay, you know what's gonna happen? You can stay and play the game, or we're gonna need to leave. And it's just, I think that once you get through that, for a real tester, it takes about a month. I'll just be honest. Yeah, it takes about a month, following through consistently, being really clear about what they do need to do, rather than don't just say, if you keep saying stop talking, instead of sit with a quiet mouth, sit with a quiet voice. Keep asking for what you don't want. One of my top tips is ask for what you do want and offer choices along the way. And I would preview the choices and preview what's going to happen when they make those 2 choices as like a little decision tree that you're setting up for them. And then you can immediately follow through. You don't have to explain. Yep, we're going. Karen, I hope this was helpful. I also want you to know that you can absolutely feel free to hop on my calendar for one of my complimentary sessions. It's 30 minutes and we can talk this through even more. I'm going to get back to some of the questions that folks had submitted earlier, just so I can make sure I have enough time for that. But man, I want to talk to you more about this, like actually have a back and forth conversation. Okay. All right, great. Nice, Jennifer. Yeah, Coach Jen is here and she has her own little one and she knows all about consistency. Yes, it makes such a difference. So I'm going to pull up that link for you in a second here, for you to book. Yeah, let's do it. Let's chat. We can chat as early as this week. I've got some time set aside, I think Thursday and Friday. So that should work. All right. And do take this quiz. There's a quiz also that it's called a parenting strengths quiz. So that way we don't waste time talking about the things you're already strong in, and we kind of hone in on things that, well, we can build off of what's working, but I'd like to hone in on things where there might be some gaps and we could fill them in with a few strategies you can try right away. Also give us a chance to see if it's a good fit to work together, but absolutely zero obligation. It's really just a session for you. All right, cool. All right, let's go to the next one. And keep listening, y'all, because there's a lot of good stuff in here. I don't know if you're noticing, but all these questions just really bring up a lot for us to talk about, which is so brilliant. Okay, so we've got Ashley here, Ashley Ford, NiAsia and NiAsia N. Shepherd, and Tanya A. ask similar questions. And I love this because it already signals to me that you're aware that you have emotional triggers and that you can be more reactive than you want to be. And like you would much rather be intentional and responsive. So here's the question. How do I navigate and manage my triggers so that I am less reactive and more intentional? Ashley, Asia, and Tanya, this is for you. Okay, so first of all, this is a lifelong journey. It keeps happening and it takes maintenance, but there are absolutely ways you can have breakthroughs around triggers. Some of you will seek traditional therapy, group therapy even. Some of you will join, like church communities and other spaces where we're actively working on mental health, y'all, whether it's through self-care strategies, or psychoanalysis or Reiki or meditation. There's all these great ways to just sort of work on our nervous systems. I personally have a collection of 6 favorite ones that all kids also like. And I just so happen to be giving a training on that very soon, which I'll share some details. It's free. I'll share some details about that in a moment. But just for right now, what I would say is get used to this idea that, first of all, a trigger it's hard to get rid of the root of a trigger, but it's as you become familiar with them and become almost like friends with it, like befriend your triggers and be like, oh, here's that trigger again. Here you are. Welcome back. And kind of get a little bit more kind of almost casual about them when they happen, because getting to that place by naming them is so helpful. And just giving yourself some grace around, of course I have this trigger, like really understand where it's coming from. Like I was raised around somebody who didn't manage their anger. And so whenever somebody is around me who's angry, I get triggered because it reminds me of these early experiences. And of course I'm triggered right now. And just like, don't make it wrong that you have triggers, which is not to say don't work on them, but just like, don't make it very wrong. Because I think one of the things that adults do, kids do it too, but adults do it even more, is we get really hard on ourselves and get even more upset for being upset in the first place. Like we have this expectation that we're going to just be cool and calm all the time. And you can get there. I'm there like 95% of the time now, but that's because I've worked at it and the kids have trained that into my nervous system because I've had to be calm for them, which is the invitation of parenting actually, is you get to be a better version of you because your kids, guess what, are the best button pushers, right? They find all your triggers. The other thing is to understand like biologically what's happening. So I have this training, like I was mentioning earlier, where we really break down and demystify meltdowns and tantrums and power struggles. It's where I was talking about the lid on and off, the lid detecting. And so one of the most important things you can do is to start lid detecting and noticing how far to that place where I just don't even have my upper cognition anymore am I, like how, and when you get triggered, you can even think like, am I on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I, or like, is my lid half off, 3/4 off, or all the way off? That's really helpful because you're going to want to pick a different strategy based on how far off your lid is. The same with your kids, you read them. Another thing that you'll want to know is that it's very easy to escalate, not just because when someone is upset and you get upset that they're upset, but it's like you actually have a mirror neuron of seeing it. And it can actually, just seeing somebody upset can be a trigger because you can mirror them. And understanding that that's happening is a hugely empowering thing as well. So you can say, oh, I think I'm just catching, it's like contagious. It's like I'm catching this. That's another thing that can be really helpful. But most importantly, I think, and this is why I dedicate a 3-day free training on this. We just were able to make it free. It's six strategies that help you to put that lid back on, help you to soothe yourself so that once you realize you're triggered, you have a way to get back into control and have your composure and be able to use your upper facilities again. And I call that, the calm parent switch, because when you're triggered, it's like an automatic switch that flips. And we want to have a way to switch it back to that calm, composed state. So the calm parent switch. And I love helping people find their calm parent switch, because maybe for you, it's breathing, but for someone else in your family, it's somatic tools of tensing and releasing. Maybe for another family member, it's really that emotion coaching that works, but another family member can't stand it when you emotion coach them. It's really nuanced. If it were straightforward, we wouldn't need training on it. Honestly, right? We'd just be like, oh, this works for everybody. Let's just all take 3 deep breaths. How many times have you told your child to take breaths and they get mad at you? I've been there probably 1,000 times before I learned better. So here's what I can say. Come to the Calm Parent Switch event so we can help you find your Calm Parent Switch. And then we'll give you a tour through the 6 strategies that you can try out and try out with your children each time that you come to the training, and then kind of start to sense like which of these, at least right now for your child's age and stage, which of these are going to be the best fit for them, where they maybe won't get mad at you and they'll even start using them on their own. And I think, Karen, for you, it's probably going to be more for you than it is going to be for your child, because I think your child's actually not getting fully lid off. I think this is more for you to keep your head on straight so that you can stay calm and you can execute the plan of following through on the choices, and you can make decisions about like when it's time to when you might need to give in and when you might need to hold the line, things like that, just change things up. I do wonder too if there's some hidden strategies in the 6 that could help sort of get your kid to get into a different kind of mood. So it's not necessarily calming your kid down in the same way that a meltdown or a tantrum requires it, but just to kind of redirect their attention to a different place so they're less likely to keep engaging in the same way and kind of break it up. So I'm thinking the redirect your attention and lighten up strategies that are on day 2 and day 3 of the series would be especially helpful. All right, so hopefully you'll be able to make it to that, as well as everybody else who's kind of interested in this trigger topic, because there's nothing worse than losing your cool and then you feel guilty for the things that you do sometimes, right afterward, or you feel like you're modeling for your child something that you really don't want them to pick up from you, like losing your temper and yelling when you don't get your way, or shutting down and stonewalling and not talking. Like we all do it. We've all done them all at some point, but I think we feel much more responsible for how we run our nervous systems in front of our children, because they do absorb that information from us, and we are role modeling. How do you handle upset? Every time we get upset, they watch us. So there's this need, we'll call it, or invitation to really get a handle of our own emotions. I know for me, it took me many months, if not years, and I needed mentors, I needed perspective, I needed to try things before I kind of stumbled upon it. And now people say I'm one of the calmest people they know. I think that's not how I came into this world. Like I was extremely sensitive and had so much crying and meltdowns and hot temper and super stubborn. And I still have all that I can pull from when I need it. But man, I've come a long way, and it's because I have allowed my experiences with children to really help me hone my nervous system, because I had to. There's no other choice. Like I wanted to be a good role model, and they needed me. They needed that from me. So it's a great invitation to step it up. I always say, Raising children and parenting is an accelerated course in personal growth. That's right. Parenting is an accelerated course in personal growth and some very serious trigger taming resilience training. Yes, yes, indeed. If you can relate to that, say, I relate. Please let me know. All right, so next set of questions. And I do think, like, if you can make it to the Calm Parent Swish, and Shalini, who's here on Zoom, you're already registered, or you already have the link to register. I hope you have registered. I'll make sure you get that link right now, Shalini. She was one of our Robust Routines students, so she got a ticket already. Oops, that's a really big link, Shalini. Anyway, I'll get the shorter link to you. Because what I want for each and every one of you is to find your best fit calm down strategy for you and every member of your family. So you have less reactive and more, you can be more intentional with your responses. It's absolutely possible. And I would say start by really becoming committed. That's right, committed to figuring out your best fit strategies. And then I've got a lot more hot tips in the training itself, which we don't have time to cover at this moment. All right. So Charlene, Vicky, and Manika, we're just going to keep going on this emotional mastery theme here. Charlene, Vicky and Manika are all saying that in some way they would like to teach their kids to recognize and express their emotions in healthy ways so they don't scream or have emotional breakdowns. What a worthy goal. Yes. So it all starts with us. Like basically, if you're just listening to this part, the three of you, go back and listen to what we've already covered because it's absolutely relevant. Okay. But what we want to do is we want you to figure out how to run your own nervous system as much as possible and don't hide it from your kids. This is a hot tip, everybody. Hope you're listening. Okay. Don't hide the way that you manage your emotions from your children, especially if you're choosing healthy ways of managing them. You maybe don't need to tell them about that night you drank the whole bottle of wine, but what I'm talking about is when you do things like take a moment to collect yourself. What is that? What are you doing to collect yourself? Are you talking yourself through it? Are you maybe even emotion coaching yourself by saying, okay, I'm feeling frustrated right now. That makes sense because nobody's listening and I keep repeating myself. It's okay to be frustrated. What do I need right now? Okay, that was a little awkward for you to hear me say those things out loud, right? However, it's highly instructive. If we silently manage our emotions, kids will not necessarily pick up on what we're doing to get our composure back. It's so important that we do it out loud or show them or say, I need to take a moment to take some deep breaths. I'll be back when I'm calmer. And you leave and you take your breaths. You come back and say, whew, I feel much calmer now. What were you asking for? Or right there, just go to your 4 square breath or whatever technique you decide is your best fit for forever or for that moment. Do it in front of your kids. I promise you they will learn 10 to 100 times more by what you show them than what you tell them to do. I know this because I'm a Montessori educator, and one of the cornerstones of Montessori is you absolutely demonstrate and show and model anything that you want the kids to be able to do. You never just tell them verbally, like, go, and you don't show them. No, it's because we take in only so much information auditorily. Most of our brain activity is actually visual processing. It can be up to 95% of our brain activity is visual. So showing is really important. Another thing is if you have younger kids, make it as concrete as possible. Oh, my shoulders are so tense. I think I'm feeling really tense and stressed. My face is feeling scrunchy. I should probably relax my shoulders and drop them. And maybe breathe in and out. That's good. Still a little frustrated and angry, but I feel much more calm and composed. I think I know what I need to say now. Or I think I know what I need to do now, right? And then you do something much calmer and maybe more constructive than you would have if you had let it fly. Yeah. Okay. Top number 1. Okay. Way up there. And then the other thing I want to share with you is that you can absolutely help kids build their toolbox of managing emotions. This is something that has become really popular now in schools. Thankfully, it's entering a lot of school environments. Some places are fighting against it for political reasons that I don't understand. But social and emotional learning, like being able to self-regulate, to be able to have self-awareness, to be able to self-express, so be able to express your emotions, all of those skills, as well as social connection, social intelligence, right? So social skills of like empathizing, reading others, understanding kind of timing, things like that. When to say things, when not to say things, what's polite, what's impolite, all the cultural rules. And then lastly, growth mindset. If you have those things, they're like the benchmarks of thriving, and also academic achievement. So we need these skills and we can teach them. So a couple things you can do right away in terms of self-awareness, self-expression, and self-regulation is help kids to become good lid detectors. Help them notice their tells that they're starting to dysregulate, that they're starting to lose it, that they're starting to get upset. And it will sometimes seem impossible because they can go 0 to 60 really quickly. Young kids can also put their lids back on really quickly. It's kind of startling sometimes. But start to build in those moments of like, when you start to hear them their voice get tense, say, ooh, maybe you're getting a little frustrated and your lid's starting to come off. I wonder if you need to, like, do you need to say something, or do you want to tell me something? Should we go run it off, and then suggest something to soothe and self-regulate before they get to that big upset. Last thing I would say is, if this is a regular thing, there might be something funky with your limits or your routines. So we want to just go ahead and take a close look at those. It's something I do with everybody I work with on purpose. We do routines and limits first when we get started, because a lot of those emotional upsets and breakdowns and screaming and things, a good chunk of them can be prevented. We can proactively get ahead of them by doing some really key things with the routines and the limits. So I would want to know more about how those are going. And my guess is that if this is frequent, as in multiple times a day, we could do some significant getting ahead of some proactive prevention of these upsets. So let me know, Charlene, Vicky, Monica, feel free to hop on my calendar. Also, consider coming to the Calm Parent Switch. I think this event will just be wildly empowering. You'll feel much more equipped for when these big emotions come up. And I think you'll also have a chance to find your best fit calm down strategy. Starts on Thursday. There's replays. If you can't make it live, we do watch parties in the evenings. And then we also have the replays up for the following week. So worth it to just register. We were able to make it free this time. So please just go ahead and grab a seat in that event. Okay, more information. Nice. NiAsia says, I try to get silly or act silly and my son does not go for it. Okay, got it. Yeah. All right. So that's why there's 6 different strategies. Lighten up is number 5 out of 6. It's not everybody's go-to. I've had parents where same nurture, different nature a little bit, but same parents. Have one kid absolutely detest when they would try to make things lighter and make things silly and fun when he was upset. And then the daughter loved it. It was the thing that worked for her. So why don't we just say, NiAsia, this is not the way for him right now. We set it aside. You say, I think I've gone so long in being permissive. Sometimes holding the boundary or myself accountable is hard. Okay. That is a really great opportunity, NiAsia. Just the fact that you've noticed this is huge. And what we would want to do is we want to get you to a place where you still feel supportive in your boundary setting. I had to tell myself, what is the more important lesson here? Or what is my priority here when I would set a limit? Because if my priority is making sure this kid doesn't get upset, then I'm going to be permissive. Right? Let's not walking on eggshells. Don't spook the cat or whatever. Don't trigger the alarm. If you have a hot button kid who flips their lid quickly, they often train us to be really permissive because we're just trying to keep away from that zone. But what we're robbing the kid from is a kind of reasonable amount of expectation. So then they get into environments where the expectations are higher than what we've set, and they have a really hard time, or they can. So in service of their growth, in service of their preparation, with their most loving adult, their parent, it's so crucial that we do give them some conditions that are right, like scaffolding them towards what they're going to be expected to be meeting in their daycare, in their preschool, in their elementary school, and beyond. So I wonder, NiAsia, like, yeah, if you have time this week, get on my calendar and sign up for the Calm Parent Switch. Even if you don't have time, I would say this is a priority, because if you can shift yourself out of the permissive in a way that feels good, like you're like, I am doing this for my child, like this is better for my child, even though the alarms might go off and you might have a meltdown tantrum or 2 or 3 or 12 or 20 before you get there, you're preparing them for life better. Is this landing with you, NiAsia? I wonder how this is landing with you, and others who are listening, because there is this sort of prioritization that you kind of have to shuffle in the moment. And it doesn't mean that you have to switch your style completely all at once, or that they're opposites. The opposite of permissive is not authoritative. Authoritative is permissive plus structure plus demand. So you've already got the supportive side down, but how are you going to bring in the demand so that they can have the structure they need, to be able to be able to understand and grow through the stages of being able to meet those expectations. One thing that can stop us too from bringing in the structure and the demand is like, we're not actually sure how hard the line should be and how high we should set the bar, because we don't have a lot of experience with young kids perhaps, or with our own child. Every day is a new day. And so sometimes having a thought partner to think that through can be really helpful. So NiAsia, feel free to lean on me. Good. I'm glad you're checking your calendar. Nice. And just know, for the Calm Parent Switch, we have recordings to back you up that you can catch up on, no problem. And then for the sessions, there's a variety of times. So see what might fit in. Yeah. And let me know if you can't find something. We might be able to look further ahead in the calendar. Just DM me. Okay. Yeah. NiAsia, so good to chat with you today. Glad you showed up for this. All right. We're going to get to another set of questions here. Gosh, we've got quite a few to get through. All right. Okay. I love how specific some of these questions are. This is great. So this one goes with alongside some of the ones we've been talking about, but let's just go deeper. Let's do it. Or more specific, I should say. We've been going pretty deep already. Okay. So this is from Jessica Brown Ferris. She says, how do I temper my reaction to my child's choice? I love the word choice. Good job. Of keeping a lot of stuff and having a very messy room. Well, I would say, Jessica, first of all, yes, you should figure out how to temper your reactions in general. Not because it's wrong to have a reaction, but I just think you'll feel better. Like you'll feel more composed, more in control, more confident, like you're just like, I don't need to react to this. I can think this through and respond intentionally. But I don't want you all to think that the opposite of reacting is non-action, or being like unconditionally accepting or even complicit in something that's really not okay. Not reacting is just keeping your nervous system baseline, kind of keeping your nervous system smooth and steady so that you can respond and you can make choices. So I do like that you want to not have your own fit around this. And I think there's some things you can wrap your head around, like kids are messy. They have limited life experience. They'll look in a space and they'll say, oh, this is clean. And it's not by your standards, but to them, like they can see the top of their shelf, the bed is made, and that's enough. They're not even looking at the floor, but look on the floor, you see 100 things. So I think there's just a way to kind of go, oh, kid, you're still learning. This is like, you clearly don't have enough life experience. Like, you think this is clean? Like, really? So that's something to maybe wrap your head around a little bit, Jessica, to just help you with your, have some good humor about it. Know that it's developmentally normal for kids to still be figuring out what is messy, what is clean, what are the thresholds. And you actually need to take some time out for training. And this is like a positive discipline Jane Nelson term, take time out for training. I just adore, because what it means is, okay, in the moment you can make it wrong and you can have a big reaction and they can do it because you're mad. But what do they really learn from that? Maybe like, mom doesn't like it when my room is messy. And if she comes in here, she might yell. Like, that might be the takeaway, right? Which is, not great. What would be better would be something like, oh, if I put my things away, then I'll know where to find them when I'm looking for them. Or my dirty clothes will get washed. Or then my baby sister won't trip or eat something she's not supposed to, right? Like, these are more like learning objectives. So taking some time out for training to explain why it's important is one aspect of it. And we talk about this all the time when we're talking about motivation, by the way. Like, how do I motivate my kid to clean their room? Well, here we go. Make sure they understand all the multitude of reasons why it's a good idea to have a clean room. So the why, answer how, and don't just tell them, show them, do it with them, break it down into smaller steps. And then when you say the choice of keeping a lot of stuff, I'm curious about that, because with the freedom to choose should be always partnered with a level of responsibility. So when it comes to stuff, one thing that I have shared with a lot of my colleagues when I go and do teacher trainings or educationally consult, I've been hired to go all over the country, all over the world to give feedback on school programs. And one of the things I always say is, it should only be in the environment if the children know how to take care of it. If they can demonstrate that level of care and responsibility, then they can have access to it. And anytime you want to introduce something into the environment that they don't have that skill, please teach them first before you leave it in the environment for them to have free reign over. Seems kind of obvious, right? But we don't do it. I swear, like I cannot tell you during the holidays how much of a pain this is, because all this inappropriate stuff comes through the door that your kids are unfamiliar with. They're too advanced, too many parts, too many pieces, breaks easily, whatever. And it's not that they should never get the opportunity to explore those objects and learn how to use them, but it's like you have to pace it out. So the how do I like, so the how in this question, Jessica, is how many items can your child reasonably manage and take good care of? And sometimes you have to run an experiment. So you can do it in either direction. You can remove 10% at a time and see where if you get to the number you need, where you're like, okay, this is a manageable amount to clean up. And maybe along the way, you're training on how to put those Legos away. Like, oh, if you do your Legos on this mat, then you can kind of scoop them up and dump them in. Take some time out for training that. If you have 3 things out, you need to put 1 thing away before you get something new out. There's like little trainings you can build in there. When the song plays, we're cleaning up the entire time the song is playing. And if we don't do that, then we're going to need to put a bunch of toys away, right? Like, there's a consequence to not doing it. I would just play with this concept, okay, with the responsibility piece. Like, what is my child actually able to handle? Because it sounds like you're building in some choices. Great, but the choice I would shift from how much stuff do you want to, it's sort of like show me choice. It's a show me choice. If you can show me, when you show me that you can put all these things away, then you can keep them. It's your choice if you want to keep cleaning up for a second song until everything's put away, or we put some of these toys in the closet and rotate them, or donate, or go through the whole like sorting through and donating some process. If you can show me that you can put all these things away and you can manage it and you don't have a meltdown and you don't, it doesn't take more than 2 reminders, then we can keep all of it out. Do you see how it's just bringing in a different level of responsibility? I love parents who give their kids as many choices as possible. Sometimes we need to shift the choices a little bit, though, because we're giving them just a little too much power that they're not ready to handle. Like, so I would really test their hypothesis that the current amount of stuff that they've chosen to keep is a manageable amount to have out at all times. Is that helpful? Okay. I've got another good, like kind of more general one that will kind of swing us back out, zoom us out a little bit. Check this one out. What is the best way to handle direct conflict What is the best way to handle conflict between siblings who are fighting each other? This is from Amira Schwartz. Hi, Amira. There are so many different ways, but I think the most important thing you can do is empower kids with multiple problem-solving strategies. So that way, what used to be a fight can become a discussion, can become maybe a cool down and then a discussion. What used to be a point of an ongoing point of contention can become a subject of a family meeting where you end up having a family breakthrough. Like there's this way that we can take, because really conflict has to do with relationships and what's important. So if we can help help them build some skills within the relationship of negotiating, solving problems, come up with win-win solutions, taking turns listening and speaking, like all these ways that are like planned ignoring, like ignoring things, because you just kind of let it go. Those kinds of problem solving tools are so helpful for siblings, and actually they're kind of like essential. And that's part why we spent 2 months of our year-long immersion on just conflict resolution and repair. So they can learn things like I statements, effective apologies, and problem-solving suggestions and solutions, strategies, because they need them. So I would just be thinking about empowering them with more tools and being willing to scaffold for them, where you're in the middle of it and you are helping them take turns listening and speaking, for example. You're helping them recognize that they're too upset to talk it through right now, and they kind of take their corners, and then you initiate them coming back together to solve it, maybe talking to each one first and then bringing them together. I have been with children for 3 straight years in a Montessori environment, first, second, third grade, especially. And what I just, it's amazing how much this investment pays off. Like they internalize these tools so well because they do want to know the pathway to peace. Whether, even if it seems like kids are fighting all the time, like they would actually much rather be getting along, even though it doesn't seem like it, and doing something just as exciting. It's just that fighting is pretty exciting stuff. And it's very stimulating. It's very engaging. It can be kind of cathartic because it can really like go there and say everything you've been wanting to say, or, you know, hit your sibling or whatever. But they would actually much rather be on the other side of that. And they just don't know it yet if they're not showing signs of that, and you can help them find their way there. So those are some things I would say around conflict, that it's an ongoing process, but it's absolutely just like emotional regulation is a teachable skill. Kids learn how to do it all the time. And I've seen major breakthroughs. Like picture this, 2 kids get into a conflict. When they were first graders, scream at each other. One ends up crying. The other ends up coming after the other one, and they end up hitting each other. And then a teacher comes in and goes, whoa, 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 what are you 2 doing? They get in trouble. They get a little timeout, all that stuff. Fast forward to 3rd grade. They've been working on this stuff forever. They've seen it modeled. They've had it taught to them. They've practiced it. They've been given really good praise, really solid praise when they do it well. They have rapport with each other. They've built this trust in being able to solve problems. And then instead of scream crying at each other and attacking each other, one of them says, I'm too upset to talk right now. And the other one says, me too. And they leave. They go, this one does some yoga, like a little yoga poses and breathes. This one goes and stomps around the yard. They come back together and they said, let's go figure out how we're going to solve this problem. They go over to a poster that has 4 problem-solving suggestions. One of them says, I want to talk it over, taking turns with the peace rose. And the other one says, yeah, let's do that and see if we can find a win-win solution. They sit down and they take turns talking it out back and forth. They start giggling because it's pretty funny. The thing they're fighting about, they realize once they're calm, they come up with a win-win solution. They pop the rose back in the vase and they go off and play. 0 adult intervention. I mean, it's just like, oh, I wish every human being on the planet had the opportunity, right, to get these skills, because it's so crucial, because later the problems get harder and heavier and more, more cutting, and more trauma can happen. And it's just great when little kids, under age 9, 10 have these skills. Now, if your child is older, you can absolutely backfill it. I've had a parent with teenagers where they were just at each other all the time, really helped smooth things over. They started doing family meetings and they're starting to address some of the big problems. Like, she keeps stealing stuff out of my room. He keeps calling me names. And it's kind of miserable. We don't like each other anymore, to kind of finding a way to kind of fall in love with each other all over again and get along again. which is why we also spend 2 months of the immersion working on things like family meetings and coming together to find our shared values. It's so crucial. Okay, Crystal, yay, Crystal. She was actually in the Robust Routines program with Shalini that they just graduated. She says, how do I stay motivated to keep moving forward with the plan and maintain a consistent routine? I love this question because it's exactly what we answered in our last training. Crystal, I think you shared this before our last training. So Crystal, if you see this, put your own notes on what you think the answer is. Maybe you could show off your insights now, especially from your journal. You're a great note taker. So how do you stay motivated? Honestly, it's a positive feedback loop. Like every time you have a breakthrough in your routine, especially with your little one, you have a toddler, I know. It is so satisfying to like finally see your kid make it to the toilet and be able to put their pants on and off by themselves. Like you had, Crystal, that breakthrough. Another is to create those visual cues, like go ahead and make the chart, have the chart somewhere where you see it, use the chart, go back and revisit the chart, take it off the wall and go through it like a play, put it back up, just get yourself back into a groove with it, make a new one if that one's kind of stale and old, decorated. There's a lot of ways you can kind of keep it fresh. And then the other thing is like, I would really just do a moment of visualization. It only takes 30 seconds of how good it's going to feel when the routine is running smoothly and your child and you get out the door on time, dressed, ready, less stress. It just feels easier. It feels smooth. You're in a groove. You're working as a team, and just like know that, like, keep your eyes on that prize. It really does help to see yourself there. And then just kind of like have a little swag around it. Like, I got this. We're gonna have a great morning, and just start going through the steps that we talked about in the routines training. Anytime you need to, you can dip back into that stuff that you now own, and review some stuff, especially the guide. Like everything you workshop through in your notes and your guide is gonna be wildly helpful. Just come back to it whenever you need to. And it will reinforce itself. Like it's gonna be so worth it because you're in routine almost every hour of the day with kids, Monday through Friday, especially. So it's kind of all the time you're spending with them. And how do you want it to go? Do you want it to be stressful and strained and kind of damaging your relationship, or something that like, it feels like there's ease, there's connection, and it's building your relationship? And that's why working on routines is so compelling. And why I really want every parent and caregiver to have the experience of working on their routines and getting them down, because it's just game changing, right, Shalini? I know that you took some stuff from our Easy Mornings webinar and implemented it right away and had quite a breakthrough, but keeping it up is tricky. So it's a great question, Crystal. So I've got 2 left that I want to pop up here that are pretty specific. And the reason I want to bring them in this way together is because they have some similar thread. And I just want everyone to take a moment and realize that there's a lot of diversity within our community of children and caregivers. And so some of these questions are going to be pretty specific, but I want you to listen to the takeaway from it. And maybe you know a family who can benefit from this. Okay, so Shelley Carpati asks, how can we support our neurodivergent young adult with seeing chores through to completion? And Cheyenne Marcy says, what tools are available to help juggle medical and genetic conditions? Okay, so of course, the most important thing you can do is tap into resources that are specialized for your children's neurodivergence and or medical and genetic conditions. What I'm about to share is general advice, not medical or therapeutic, okay? So I think the most important thing we can do, Shelley and Cheyenne, is really work on our inner game around the fact that our children are maybe different than we had originally hoped they would turn out. Like anytime a kid gets hurt, it's like, oh man, now they're in a cast. Or you find out you get a diagnosis of some neurodivergence. You're like, oh no, like this road is going to be harder for my child, but at the same time, it gives us an opportunity, and I just really invite you into the opportunity. I have found in my many, many years of teaching and care providing and mentoring adults that the parents and caregivers who are on a journey, like a tangential parallel journey with their child, who has medical genetic conditions and or neurodivergence has been able to find within themselves like so much empathy and compassion and strength and creativity and resilience and resourcefulness 9 times out of 10, and way beyond their peers who haven't been haven't had the opportunity to or the need to maybe dig deeper and also think outside the box for their child, whether it's trying a different schooling approach and or getting them in for interventions and doing a whole lot of different assessments to figure out what is the most important thing to target. Like, it takes a lot of energy and time and resources. But what it also does is it gives the care provider so much more insight into what makes their kids tick. Like, I think sometimes kids who are not neurodivergent and kids who are not challenged by medical or genetic conditions aren't as well known by their caregivers because we haven't been through this like body of assessments and sort of evaluations and trying to understand things. So you're going to have this wealth of information to play with. And I think the most important thing you can do, Shelley, for example, with your child and the chores is really understand their needs. And like, for example, one of my children, my stepchildren, is living with ADD and the inattentive type. And it was also an executive functioning issue. And so we would have to really, like, even at age 10, 12, even 14, we had a chart of the morning routine because his attentiveness was so variable, day to day, hour to hour, sometimes minute to minute. And so some days he needed that chart. You just like really had to lean on it. And other days he didn't need it at all. And understanding, like, just adjusting to what he needed was so important. So I'm curious for your child, Shelley, and we can chat, get on my calendar. There's a link up above in this comments of the Facebook post. We would want to know, like, what is most useful in terms of scaffolding your child to success so that they can understand the importance of the chores, be able to recognize what stage they are in, and really have some way of like demarking that they're complete. That feels really good to them. I just worked with, had a client renew that worked with me for 3 months who has a 28-year-old at home, and 26. And where we were working on just that, like cooking for himself, cleaning up after himself, doing laundry. Like, it just really was kind of pushed out. And she was kind of like, if I don't ask him to do this now, it's, while he's still in my house, when is it going to happen? And we identified that like she couldn't come straight at him directly. It had to be more from a sideways approach. And that's just what worked for him and her. And so I'm curious, like at this stage, Shelley, where you have a neurodivergent young adult, I would want to find that inroad for you and figure out like what does actually motivate your child and what kind of scaffolding does your child need to be able to do things like complete chores and get them to more independence. I know that's always a big goal for young adults. In terms of juggling medical and genetic conditions, Cheyenne, when you say what tools are available, always start with a pediatrician and go from there. Understand that I would accept that it's going to be probably a 2 to 3 year road before you have a really robust care plan in place and have figured out the best school situation, specialists, and get community behind you. If you have if there's a specific medical or genetic condition that you can go search for other folks, other parents with those conditions, great, go for that. Or if even in this community, the Raising Our Resilience parent community, like pop up a question as a separate post. Does anybody else have this medical condition and can point me towards some resources? Or if you think it overlaps with some of the things that are more universal, like routines, limits, conflicts, getting on the same page with other caregivers, motivation, emotions, tag me in some more specific questions about like how you're finding the intersection of your child's genetic and medical conditions and, these developmental areas, these pillars of resilience that we work on together here. And yeah, Cheyenne, hopefully that will be a helpful place to start. Let us know how things are going. I know that you're looking for resources, but let us know if you're finding them. And maybe there's folks in the community who either for themselves, their own children, or know of other parents who have kids with the same conditions can point you in the right direction. It's amazing what happens when we crowdsource. It's really worth it. I've seen some really cool things happen when people do. Okay, so that was a very long Ask Me Anything, but it's great because we had a bunch of people here live. That was wonderful. Really happy to have you. And I think we answered everything that was submitted ahead of time, and even some new questions. And I'm just so glad that we were able to come together. We went a little overtime today, but we will be back for more Monday Mindsets, noon on Mondays Pacific time, right here in the Raising Our Resilience group. And or if you're watching on Zoom or on YouTube, just know you can come and join us in the Raising Our Resilience parent group on Facebook. And then you'll definitely have a chance to submit your question when you answer the membership questions, okay? And we can get your question answered, or just come on back and pop them in the chat. Don't forget that we have this Calm Parent Switch event coming up and that you have free access to it this time. We were able to make it free. And please do spread the word about that. We've got the link here in the chat for you one more time. And then we're going to close with Shalini's comment. So Shalini says, let's see here. Shalini says, motivating self and kiddo to keep a routine. I have to use the reset button for me when we are behind on schedule. Good. And for her go-to reset button, ooh, Shalini, this is nice. Go into her bedroom in a particular spot where my mind calms down, reboots, and feels ready again. Beautiful. I have to talk to myself, more like a cognitive behavioral therapy approach. Nice, yes. Which is negative thought and replace with one or two positive statements. I love it. Really good, Shalini. You've got a nice little mini kind of coping routine that you've built in. That sounds really good. And I love that you know that that's your go-to. And what I'm curious about through the Calm Parent Switch is expanding on that for you, but then also looking at some other varieties so that you can make sure that you're modeling and introducing a variety of them for your daughter too, so that she can find her best go-to. And it might be the same one, but it might also be different. Young kids tend to need more somatic things, and sometimes all the way through adulthood as well. But I'm just curious, especially Shalini, I want you to come to day one. I think that'd be really important of the Calm Parent Switch, or watch the video, okay? Lots of somatic strategies. All right, y'all. Lots of love to you all. See you next time. Until next time, just know that you are, it's true, a calm, resilient, empowered parent, raising happy, confident, resilient kids, one step at a time. We'll get there together. And it was my honor to support you all. Lots of love. See you next time.